Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
We are ranking all 14 teams in the SEC for 2022 this episode. Very tough list to make. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Trey, let's get started with number 14.
Yeah, that's pretty much a given here. Unfortunately, Vanderbilt. They're vying for the worst Power 5 team and kind of one of the worst in the country overall. The SP Plus projects them to be 115th. To put a spin on it, though, the promising side is, Clark Lee, he played a lot of youth last year. 19 guys that are coming back played at least 300 snaps. And then if you look at the offense, Mike Wright, he put a little jolt in that offense when he took over for Ken Seals. The offense really increased their production in the second half of the SEC slate. He has some mobility, which helps. Lee, of course, his calling card is defense, one of the better defensive coordinators at Notre Dame. He's now had a full off season to help shore up some of their woes on that side, just because they were, towards the bottom in most of the defensive categories. But hopefully some of the youth ends up developing in year two. And they actually do have a chance to start out decent. They got games against Hawaii, Elon, and Northern Illinois in their first four.
At Hawaii, week 0. Looking forward to that one. I hope they can win those. That'd be good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. Number 13. I didn't think this one was that hard either. Missouri at number 13. Eli Drinkwitz heading into his third year there. He's 11-12 so far in his first couple seasons, so he could kind of use a breakout year. Not sure he's going to get one, though. It looks tough for him this year. They're not looking too super strong at quarterback. Connor Bazelak transferred over to Indiana. And whoever ends up winning the job is going to be very inexperienced. Looks like Brady Cook kind of has the edge right now, but it's hard to be super confident in him. They lost their great running back, Tyler Beatty, had over 1,600 yards last year, so that's a huge loss. Defense was really bad last year. Just don't see them taking a huge step forward either. So for them, their season win total is 5.5. If they make a bowl game, I really just think that's kind of the goal. Get to 6, make a bowl game. But I know they're hoping for more, but realistic, that's what they're shooting for.
All right, moving on to number 12 on the list. It's South Carolina, and I think them being 12th just shows how good the SEC is because it feels wrong to have them this low. The reason they are is that even though their record was pretty good last year, they had some close wins against bad teams, and they had a few blowout losses. So from a predictive standpoint, the metrics weren't great for the team last year. I do think they'll be much improved, maybe not record-wise. They've got a tough schedule again. But as far as their true power rating, they should be because offensively, the upgrade going from the quarterbacks they had last year to Spencer Rattler coming in from Oklahoma, no matter what you think of him, that's a massive upgrade from what they had in 2021. They also have some really good skill talent transfers, so offense has a lot of potential this year. That was, of course, their major weakness last year. The defense was fine, so this should be a pretty good team, but they're 12th just because there's a lot of really good teams ahead of them that we just thought were either more talented or more proven.
Yep, indeed. Number 11, Auburn. Lots of issues on the Plains. They lost 5 straight to end the year. They had the Brian Harsin, job status drama, and now some roster turnover this offseason. So, you look at last year, the defense was their calling card. Even though they lose some pieces like Roger McCreary, Zacoby McClain, new coordinator Jeff Schmedding has some nice pieces, particularly Derek Hall at the end. The challenge is on the offensive side. They need it to produce after they finished 11th in scoring in the conference, and right now there's a wide open 4-man race for that quarterback spot. I lean to TJ Finley right now. He finished last year, obviously familiar with the scheme, but really no matter who wins it, they're going to have a short leash. You could even see a package that they got a young guy, Robbie Ashford. He's one of the fastest guys on the team. I've saw some of the coaches want to get him at least on the field. Personally, overall, I do like the pieces that Auburn has. I think they'll be a decent team by the metrics, but their schedule is just an absolute bear. They get Penn State in the non-conference, and 5 of their last 7 games are against preseason top 20 teams, including at Georgia and at Alabama in the Iron Bowl.
Ooh, yeah, drawing Georgia from the East. Not the best draw there. Well, they always do. All right, moving on. We got
exactly.
it sucks for them. We got LSU at number 10. A lot of unknowns for this team under new coach Brian Kelly. Most notably, who's going to start at quarterback? We don't know yet. Miles Brennan just retired from football, so that leaves the Arizona State transfer Jaden Daniels and the redshirt freshman Garrett Nussmeier as the two kind of candidates there. We'll see. But whoever does win the job, they're going to have a good receiver to throw to, very good receiver to throw to, Keyshawn Boutte, who's really, really good. Offensive line really needs some work, though, so that's going to be a problem for whoever's behind center. They were not good last year. Not so sure they're going to be great again this year, so that's a major concern. Defense for them was bad last year. That's obviously was not normal down there in Baton Rouge. But I think their new defensive coordinator, Matt House, coming in from the Chiefs, I think he's going to get them to improve, get into his 3-4 scheme. I think it fits that defense pretty well. I think the front seven could actually be pretty darn good. They have some nice pieces there, I think. Secondary is just the question mark. They lose. I know they're DBU, but wow, they lose a lot. Transfers and just guys going pro. So that's going to be a concern. Overall, I do think LSU will be a little bit better than last year, but don't expect like 10 wins or anything.
Yeah, they're one of the toughest teams to predict with Brian Kelly coming in. So see what happens. Number 9, Kentucky. It's crazy what Mark Stoops has built there. He's recruiting really well. They're now a pretty consistent winner. The defense should be good this year. The question is whether or not the offense will take a step back. Will Levis, of course, is getting a lot of hype this offseason, NFL draft buzz. He threw too many picks last year, but other than that was very good. He's got Chris Rodriguez to hand off to. But they lose a lot on that side of the ball. 4 of their top 6 offensive linemen, offensive coordinator Liam Cohen is gone. And most importantly, their top 3 receivers, really most importantly, their number 1 receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson, who was just, by far their biggest target last year. So we'll see if they can replace that. I mean, there's candidates, Tavion Robinson coming in from Virginia Tech. They've got a lot of young talent on the roster, but it's unproven. So I think that's kind of the question mark. If receiver hits, then they're probably too low on this list. They could easily be a few slots higher.
Are they a basketball or football school, Mike? No, you don't have to answer that.
Yeah.
All right. Number 8 is Florida. They're tough to gauge. The Gators are in year 1 for Billy Napier. In 2020, they won the East Division. And then last year, in the second half of the season, they kind of just gave up. They ended up firing Dan Mullen. But one reason for hope is Anthony Richardson at quarterback. Extremely athletic, huge threat with his legs, average about 8 yards per carry, but really needs to develop as a passer. That was very inconsistent last year. If he does develop, and some of the transfers that Napier brought in, especially at running back, and he brought in his all Sun Belt performer on the line, Osiris Torrance, if those guys play well, the offense could potentially be a strength for them. The problem, and especially in the second half of the year, was the defense. They got gashed. They finished 10th against the run in conference. But, a positive side, they played 8 freshmen that had a lot of snaps last year. So Napier is obviously hoping some of that youth ends up developing into and pays some dividends this year. They're going to need a big year from a guy like pass rusher Brenton Cox Jr. That would really help some guys on the back end. And we're really going to learn a lot about them in week 1 when they host Utah in the Urban Meyer Bowl. Utah, they're a slight favorite, but the Swamp's going to be rocking. It's going to be a great test for both the offense and defense going against one of the best teams in the country. And the schedule really isn't impossible either after that. So if Richardson improves as a passer and the defense takes a little bit of a step forward, they could be the number 2 in the East.
I agree. Yeah, I like them. I think they're going to be better than people think this year. All right, moving on to another team I actually think is going to be better than maybe some people are thinking. Mississippi State at number 7. I have them 5th on my personal list, so I'm pretty high on this team. Year 3 is when Mike Leach's teams tend to take off, and I don't see why it wouldn't for this team. They got a lot going for them. Led by their quarterback, Will Rogers, one of the best in the SEC, threw 36 touchdowns last year, just 9 picks. Really, the way he finished the year was amazing. He went on an absolute tear. Couple of versatile, really talented running backs. They're coming back. Couple of good receivers. The O-line needs to replace both tackles. It is a concern, but they do bring in a highly sought-after JUCO who's going to probably start at left tackle. So I think they're going to be just fine there. So the offense, I think, should be even better. Defense got a ton of returning production. The entire defensive line is back, plus they get a guy back who missed all of last year after injury. So linebacker's good. Questions the secondary, but I always say if there's one question mark I want to have, I'd rather it be the secondary than anywhere else. So I like this team. I think they're going to be really good. Number one in the SEC in returning production. They should be solid.
All right ahead of them, right next to them, is their in-state rival, Ole Miss, at number 6. And we got a quarterback battle between Jackson Dart and Luke Altmaier, at least as of this recording. And Jackson Dart, of course, the transfer from USC, he was kind of widely assumed to be the starter, and maybe he'll end up being that, but they're still battling. So whoever wins under Lane Kiffin, I am counting on them leading a very good offense. And they brought in, really on both sides of the ball, an insane transfer class. At running back, you got Zach Evans from TCU. He could have a monster year. Michael Trigg, also from USC at tight end. Receiver, Jalen Robinson from UCF. On down the list, there's so many guys. So offense, not worried really at all about it. I mean, I guess it's a new quarterback, so you never know, but I think it should be good. And the defense took a huge step forward last year. They do lose DJ Durkin, but should be pretty good again. They've got an experienced secondary, and the theme, they added a lot of really good transfers up front and at linebacker. So I'm optimistic on the Rebels.
Sure. Number 5, Arkansas. You really have to appreciate what, Sam Pittman has done in his time there, turning this program around. Now they're in that position where they want to take that next step and start competing in the West. I absolutely love KJ Jefferson at quarterback. He's an all-SEC candidate. 21 touchdowns, 4 picks last year. He added over 600 yards on the ground. He's got 4 starters back on the offensive line. But really the storyline to watch is at receiver. Who can replace Treylon Burks and his big plays? He was a bulk of that offense on the outside. They connected for a lot of big plays. But they do bring in some transfers to help there, so we'll see. But it certainly is a test for Kendall Briles, but I trust him to overcome that. And then Barry Odom on the other side of the ball, defense, he has his work cut out. They only returned 4 guys on that side. They're going to rely on a bevy of transfers really at all 3 levels. So more of an unknown on that side. Bumper Poole, though, is back at linebacker. He's one of the better ones in the conference. And looking at their schedule, they need to start well. They have Cincinnati and South Carolina to start, and they just cannot afford to go 0-2 because soon after that they have a 4-game stretch where they play Texas A&M, Alabama, at Mississippi State, and then at BYU. So Hogs fans are really hoping that KJ Jefferson carries them this year.
Yeah, a couple of tough non-conference games they got on their schedule. G5s, well, not BYU, but, non-Power 5 teams. All right, moving on. Number 4, we have Tennessee. Plenty of returning talent for the Volunteers, most notably their quarterback, Hendon Hooker, had an awesome year last year. Big play wide receiver, Cedric Tillman's back. Leading rusher, Jabari Small's back. 4 offensive linemen. Offense is going to be really good. I don't think there's any real doubt about that. Just the question for Tennessee is the defense. Can they step up? They were the worst in the conference against the pass, just absolutely terrible. Gave up way too many points. They do lose some guys up front on the D-line, especially in the middle. I think actually on the edges they'll be just fine, but can the D tackles step up? Major question mark. Linebacker I think should actually be better than last year. They had some injuries that hurt them. And they returned a good amount of guys there. But secondary, as I said, the worst passing defense in the conference. That's a major concern again, especially at corner. I just don't see them being strong there. Safety could be a little better, but it's just like last year, it looks like to me, a team that's just, they need Hendon Hooker to play at a near Heisman level for them to kind of compete there in the East. If he's has an off game, it's just, I don't see the defense being able to keep him in much.
All right, number 3 is Texas A&M. And as of now, I think we'd probably agree it's a distant 3 to that top 2. I think any of the previous 8 or 9 teams we just listed on a given Saturday are capable of beating A&M. But they've been the a top 3 SEC team by the metrics each of the last 2 seasons. And this year, I think quarterback play could be much improved from last year. Zach Calzada was, outside of a couple games, just wasn't good last year. So whether it's Haynes King or Max Johnson, the transfer from LSU, I think they'll be better. And right now, like I said, as of this recording, it seems to be a pretty close battle between those two. And they've, especially if some of the younger talent at receiver breaks out, that'll really help the passing game. We've got Evan Stewart, the 5-star freshman, of course, is probably the biggest candidate. So pairing him with Aniyah Smith would be really nice. And the defense has some losses. Of Mike Elko, the defensive coordinator, is gone. That's a big loss. They lose a good amount up front. Of course, they replaced that with a lot of 5-star freshmen and
Yes.
Some good players. So not too worried about it. Secondary looks great. Defense is still projected to be top 10, so it could be just as good as last year. That's why we have them third.
Yep.
Indeed. Number 2, Georgia. So, when a team returns only 10 starters, it's usually a major red flag and cause for concern. But when you're the national champs, you've recruited at an insane level, it's really not all that bad. Sure, they might not be as elite on defense, but they're still going to be very strong. They have key returners at all 3 levels. You got big Jalen Carter on the line, Nolan Smith at linebacker, Keely Ringo at corner, who I think really should break out. He was the savior with the pick 6 to clinch the national title last year. And then on offense, once again, we get the question of, can Stetson Bennett do it? For as much flack and doubt as he gets, you would think his numbers wouldn't be that good, but surprisingly, they're pretty solid. 29 touchdowns, 7 picks, 65% completions. I know he's not going to be an NFL star, but maybe with the confidence that he gained last year, he can improve a little bit more this year. He does lose Zamir White and James Cook, but I think Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton should carry the load fine. And then the other thing going for Bennett is he gets to throw to the best tight end out there, Brock Bowers. Eric Gilbert is supposedly looking great. Got Dominic Blaylock on the outside as well. So if the defense doesn't regress too much, which it will, but just not a lot, they have a good shot at again winning the SEC this year, which I guess they actually didn't win it last year before, but they got revenge against Bama in the national title.
Yep, Georgia is they're looking pretty good again, but they are looking up right now, at least preseason-wise, at number 1, Alabama. This team looks absolutely stacked heading into this year, led by Heisman winner Bryce Young at quarterback. The offensive line, yeah, they lose a couple pieces, but, they're still set there. They're going to be arguably the best in the conference. Got Georgia Tech transfer out running back Jahmyr Gibbs. He looks like the real deal. The one question mark really for Alabama, at least especially on the offense, but team-wide, is the wide receiver room. John Mechie's gone, Jamison Williams, Slade Bolden, they're all gone. And I know they have some good candidates to fill in, but they've lost a ton of great receivers the last few years. Can they keep plugging them in? I don't know. We'll see. There's some talent, but that's a major question mark. Defense, though, oh boy. Wow, this defense is going to be good. Best pass rushing group, I think, in the country, led by Will Anderson. Just him by himself is maybe the best in the nation, but it's not just him. You got Dallas Turner. He had 8.5 sacks last year. Should have another breakout year this year. Double breakout, whatever you want to call it. Chris Braswell, he's the one that could have a breakout year. Nick Saban kind of wants to get him on the field more so they could have 3 dynamic pass rushers. Henry To's stud linebacker. They're stacked everywhere. Secondary should be really good too. A few starters back there. This defense is maybe the best in the nation. They're going to be a absolute handful for any offense. So this team's number 1. I think you can say that clearly right now.
Yep, they did a great job of adding transfers to plug any, weaknesses
Potential,
by Bama
yeah.
standards. But yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's get to the overall list here and just give our thoughts. For me, the middle of this list was impossible. It's kind of hard to draw the line of what I define as the middle, but I think Alabama and Georgia, as we've said, are clearly the 2 best, and Vanderbilt worst. So almost anything in between. That at the edges, maybe I feel somewhat strongly, but you could really shake up this order. It is very tough to, if you say, Kentucky at 9, if their receiving core pans out, like we said, wouldn't shock me if they're better than Arkansas and Tennessee. Same with LSU right below them. They're a total wild card. It's just, I don't know. I think that probably fans of those teams that are in the 9, 10, 11, 12 range are going to be upset, but we probably don't even disagree that much. If they're just a little bit better than we think, they shoot up the list because it's so bunched.
Yeah. No, I totally echo that. I mean, every one of those teams that you kind of mentioned in the 3, 4 through 11 range, whatever, they have some really, really good strengths, but each of them kind of have a big question mark or weakness going into it. And really, whoever can overcome those potential shortcomings could make a run for second in the East or West Division, depending on where they're at. Someone will probably make us look silly, but to our credit, we were mentioning how razor thin it is.
Yeah, I just trying to think about how, like, comparing it to other conferences, just how these teams, they're so good, this conference. I mean, you got the clear number 2 worst team in our eyes is Missouri, and they're battling for a bowl game. They're not going to be some like terrible team out there. You put them in maybe, let's say, the Pac-12. I mean, where are they in the Pac-12? Like, nearish the top, maybe top 4, arguably.
Higher than 13th, I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah, exactly. Or in the Big Ten, if you put them in the Big Ten West, like, they're probably right in the pack with all those Big Ten West teams just trying to fight for the division crown, you know? So it's just such a uphill battle in that conference, but you could go all the way down the line. I think 3, Texas A&M, I think I do feel comfortable having them separated a little bit from people behind them. You know, they do have some question marks, but their talent level is undeniable. I think their floor is certainly higher than some of these people. So anyways, it's such a hard deal. And, you know, if you're a team like Missouri, it's just like it sucks. You know, you feel like you're not bad, but you kind of are comparatively.
Yeah. And they're recruiting well now, so maybe that'll start showing up, but we'll see. Anyway, that'll do it for this episode of the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe and check out the rest of the videos on our channel. We'll have more SEC content coming up throughout the next week, so would appreciate you checking those out. See you next time.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.